Okay, so this is going to be my recap of Alias Grace Part 1. Now, it's a limited series. There are 6 episodes in the series, and this is going to be the first part. It doesn't have a name. It's just Part 1 through Part 6. So, Grace was 16 years old when she was tried and convicted of the murder of Nancy Montgomery. Her and her family left Ireland because her father had gotten involved with some nefarious people, and some people end up being injured and or killed, and they basically had to flee. And you find out that her father is an abusive drunk who abused her mother. And her.
You stupid, ugly whore!
And one of the sadder aspects of the story was during the trip, her mother kind of had this premonition that she wouldn't survive the voyage.
3 crows in a row mean death. My foot will never touch land again.
And unfortunately, she didn't. So Grace and her family, they all made it to Canada and found housing. And one day her dad came in and told her that she needed to find work and to send her wages home. And so he basically put her out. Like, she needed to find something, earn some money and send her money back home.
Tommy went out into the world, earn your own bread and send your wages back.
So we flash forward. Grace has now been incarcerated for 15 years.
I have been an inmate at the Kingston Penitentiary for 15 long years.
And she is meeting Dr. Jordan for the first time. Dr. Jordan has been hired to basically evaluate her to see if basically it's safe to release her. And so they meet, and I think she ended up asking him if he was a preacher or something. And he said no, that he was a doctor of the mind.
I'm a doctor that works not with bodies but with the mind. And
she asked him if he had knives in his bag at some point. And the reason she asked that was because there was a time when she was evaluated where the doctor was going to put something on her head, and she looked in his bag and she saw all these sharp objects, and she kind of freaked out. And then she asked him, if she was going to be sent back to the asylum. And she recalled a number of incidences where she was physically and was SA'd, basically.
Asylum. Flesh and blood cannot stand it. They took liberties, sir.
And he told her no, that as long as she, cooperated, that he would talk to the warden and make sure that she stayed where she was. And she told him that, because he said he had read her report, that surely that there are gaps in her memory.
In any case, I've lost that part of my memory entirely. They must have told you that.
So the theory is that she experienced so much trauma that she's blocked out certain aspects of her memory. So he's there to try to help her kind of dig those memories out. So later that night, Jacob is meeting with one of the individuals that hired him, and he wanted to kind of gauge where Dr. Jordan was going. I don't know if I said Dr. Jacob or Dr. Jordan. His name is Dr. Jordan. Where, his feelings. And he basically was saying that he needed to evaluate her more. It's going to take more time to evaluate her. And Dr. Jordan is telling him that, this kind of evaluation, it takes time. So during their second meeting, she's hired out. She works in a house as a housekeeper and, things of that nature. And so she's working on a quilt. And he asked her about the quilt. And she made the statement that there's 3 quilts that a woman should make before she's married. And she listed those 3 quilts off.
The Tree of Paradise, the Flower Basket, and the Pandora's Box.
She made the statement that a bed can be a dangerous place. And that actually comes back up when you kind of get more into the story and you realize why she felt that way.
Because you may think a bed is a peaceful thing, sir. To you, it may mean rest and comfort and a good night's sleep. But it isn't so for everyone.
So he started asking her about the name Mary Whitney, because that was the name that she had used initially. And she said that no, Mary Whitney was a real person. She was her friend, and he wanted her to, kind of go into more details and tell her more about Mary.
Oh, no, sir. Mary Whitney was once a particular friend of mine. She was dead by that time, sir, and I did not think she would mind if I used her name.
And you find out that she was able to find employment after her father kicked her out. She went to work for the Parkinsons. And Mary was the first person that greeted her. Mary was also a servant in the house. And Mary kind of took her under her wing.
You must be Grace, the new girl. I'm Mary. I shouldn't stand here.
And, you could see Mary, she was, was like all smiles and just seemed like a nice, pleasant person. And I guess for Grace, coming from a situation where she had been, she had lost her mom. She had to leave her family behind in Ireland. Her father was trash. Basically put her out. I mean, she hasn't, Grace hadn't really seen much kindness in her life. And so, she was kind of standoffish. She really didn't know how to respond. So, Mary met her and took her into the house and kind of showed her around. And
this is the parlor.
then, you find out that the Parkinsons have 2 sons that are away at college.
They have 2 sons. They're both away in the States at college, which is just as well.
And so she ended up taking her to their room because they shared a room and also they shared a bed, which was not uncommon during that time. And they ended up passing 2 of the other women that worked in the house. And when she introduced Grace to one of them, she kind of had this like I could care less kind of look on her face. And then Mary explained that, her boyfriend was a part of the rebellion. And I think I can't remember if she said if he was killed or if he had to leave on, pain of death or something happened with that. But she was just not a happy person. And she ends up trying to, unalive herself. And it was just a total backstory. And of course, because Grace just got there, she didn't know anything about this rebellion. And so she ended up telling her that, Mary ended up telling her that the rebellion was basically based on the gentry taking all the money in the land and keeping everything for themselves. And of course, the working class felt some kind of way. And they kind of rose up to fight.
It was against the gentry, who run everything here, and they keep all of the land and the money for themselves.
And her father was one of those people, and he ended up losing everything and ended up dying penniless. And her mother, died shortly thereafter.
But my father lost his farm. The government troops, they burnt the log cabin that he built with his own 2 hands while fighting off bears.
And so later that night, they were talking, and she was basically telling her that she needed to hide her wages. And Grace was telling her that she needed to send her wages home because, she had younger siblings, and how would they eat? And Mary had to school her, like, your father is not going to take care of your siblings. He's going to probably drink that money up. So it's best for you to put that money aside and save as much as you can.
It won't benefit your brothers and sisters. You'll just drink it away.
And you can kind of see that they became fast friends.
I think we're going to get along just fine together.
And someone had come in to offer Dr. Jordan some tea. And they interrupted the session, kind of interrupted the flow of things. And Grace basically, at that point, she wanted to end the session. He basically said, yeah, we covered a lot today, and we'll just pick up tomorrow.
Sorry, Doctor, are we not done?
Yes, of course. That was quite a lot for one day.
And that's not where the episode ends. There are a lot of long monologues, and you could tell by the monologue of that she had towards the end, it had a lot to do with her and Dr. Jordan. You can kind of see that there is some attraction between the 2 of them. But this is where I'm going to end in my recap.